Welcome to another episode of the Rodcast. I am your host. I'm not going to say my name because I decided that earlier today I'm going to start going by a pseudonym. And I know there's like 17 other podcasts that I've made that I've said my full name. But from now on, I'm only going to go as Rod Rodriguez. So welcome to the podcast. We're going to start today off with a new segment. I'm trying to introduce some structure into the podcast. In today's segment, it's new. Okay, I just said that, but it's new. It's called Confession. So what we're going to do in Confessions, each week, I'm going to go on the mic and I'm going to confess my sins to you all. My sins for the week. I encourage you guys to all email or call in if you know me. You have my number. If you need to email in, the email is mildmeatball@yahoo.com because that was the name of my original podcast. Also, congratulations to me on podcasting in my new studio, which is not just a closet with soundproof foam on the walls. Some might say it is, but it's not. Now on to the new segment. Confession. Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. This is my confession. My last confession was at least 21 years ago because I've never done a confession. And these are my sins. I didn't know where to start, so for about the last 2 weeks, I have been stealing butter from my roommates. I don't really think this is like a huge sin. I have butter, but I left it at my brother's house when I was staying with him. So every morning I cook a grilled cheese and I just steal a cube of butter. I steal it from different roommates so that they don't catch on. So I feel like that alleviates most of the crime. But I do steal butter. I am a butter thief. And I don't feel bad about it. But it is a sin and I am confessing. This week I also hit on and offered drinks to a girl who was underage. And by underage, I mean she's under 21, so she's younger than me. And now that I'm 21, I do feel weird about hitting on women who are under 21 or not 20. An 18-year-old feels like a child. I don't know why I feel like they're a child, but I feel like they are. I stole a fork from work. I stole a mug from work. I stole these at the same time. Now, I am a poor college student, and I don't own any dishware of my own. When I took the mug and the fork, it was because I had made coffee at work. And I looked to my boss and said, hey, I'm off the clock, but I don't want to dump my coffee out. I'll just bring this mug and this fork back tomorrow. But then I got home and I said, I need a mug and a fork. I'm just not going to bring this fork. I'm not going to bring this back tomorrow. And I didn't. And I still drink out of it today. In fact, I'm drinking out of it right now. Do I regret this? Not really. It needed to be done. In a way, it's really helping me out. So I don't know if it really counts as a repentance if I'm not sad about it. But I'm not sad about it. My next sin. General lust. I have a great lust to me. I lust after a great many women. I don't like it. I keep telling myself I'm taking a break from dating to focus on myself. But I'm not, because I keep dating. But I need to stop. And if any of you know how out there want to help me, please do. Something else I should apologize for is the countless racist jokes I've made. I'm not a racist, but I do like to make racist jokes. I don't know if it's because I think they're funny or what, but I make at least 10 racist jokes a day. And that probably counts as a sin. On that same thing, I have made countless tasteless jokes about retards. I mean, I'm talking about hundreds upon hundreds of retarded jokes a week. And when I say retarded jokes, I don't just mean that the jokes themselves are retarded, but they're at a retard's expense. I made one today at work about a retard that was eating. Do I feel good about it? No, I don't. But I thought it was funny at the time. And my final sin is I pirated at least three movies this week. I pirate countless movies because despite what they tell you, it is in fact a victimless crime. They are suffering no loss of money because I am pirating movies, so I don't feel bad about it. Not in the slightest. Now, on to the listener sins. We only had one listener write in with sins this week. As all of you may know him from any other podcast you've listened to of mine. His name is Mackenzie Olivas, Big Red. His main sin is lust. Without having read his email, I can tell you it's lusty. So, Mackenzie, this is your sin. You are forgiven. Forgive me, Rod, for I have sinned. It has been many years since my last confession. This week, I have spanked my rod at least 7 times in 7 days. I'm not proud of this fact, but I have done it. Forgive me. Well, Mackenzie, you are in fact forgiven. That is the point of this segment, is anyone with any sins. We're all sinners. And we are all disgusting monsters. Please write in with your sins. It would make us all feel better. And that concludes the segment, Confession. I feel much better. I feel lighter. I'm ready to sin again. Tomorrow's a new day. But I'm going to go to bed tonight, and I'm going to feel really, really good. It's just like, I'm so much lighter having gotten my butter stealing off my chest. Now, we're going to move on to my next segment, which would be over the next 8 weeks or so, I'm going to review every major steakhouse chain. Now, the review is completely arbitrary based on what I feel is important when I'm there. So last night, I went to Texas Roadhouse, which was a very high contender for me because that steakhouse is, I feel, considered quite good. So it's one of those steakhouses that it's one of those restaurants that people, it's higher end than it deserves. I don't know where to start. So we walked in. The hosts are hosts. They're just not good enough to be servers, and you can tell that they're upset by it. So we came in. I went with somebody, by the way. So we went in. We sat down. We were greeted by a chunky yet semi-spunky server. His name was Austin, I believe. It was either Austin or Jason, but it definitely ended in an N. Okay, I'm sure of that. So as the rule that I decided I'm going to do for the steakhouse review, I'm just going to say, well, what do you recommend, Austin? Or Jason, whatever your name is that ends with an N. And whatever he recommends is what I'm going to eat. He recommended the fillet. The filet is how you would technically pronounce it. And, it was decent. I don't have many complaints about it in terms of in flavor. He also recommended the fried pickles. So, following the rule that I have just laid out, I ordered the fried pickles. Now, with my steak, I also ordered my sides, because you get 2 sides at Texas Roadhouse if you don't know. I ordered a side salad with blue cheese, with honey mustard actually, not blue cheese. Let's not lie to you, my loyal listeners. Laura, I won't lie to you. It was honey mustard. Now, I also ordered a cup of chili. He sent both sides out before we had the steak. He also, I don't understand this, sent the pickles out with the steak. So the fried pickles should have been an appetizer, but he sent them out before the food, or with the food. But he sent our sides out, which should have came with the food, with the exception of the salad, which should have came before the food with the pickles. He sent all the appetizers out before the food, or all the sides out before the food, and the appetizer out with the food. So I don't know how to feel about that. I thought I had a SpongeBob situation in which I could finally unironically say, he forgot the pickles! But he didn't forget the pickles. He just sent the pickles out at a weird time. Now, the taste of the food was adequate. He did recommend a decent steak. it wasn't the best steak I ever had. Like, the flavor was pretty good, but overall it was kind of lackluster. Um, so I'm gonna give it a 6 out of 10 for the flavor. I don't quite really know what else to say. My bill was $71 at the end of the day, so it was pretty upsetting. Like, that's frankly too much for my meal. But it was decent, and Jason was a nice yet chunky lad, so I don't have horrible things to say about it. Right now, I'm gonna put it at a B. I think we could do better as a restaurant, but so far it is the best one that I have eaten at. Also, I'm going to try to make these podcasts shorter, as in, I'm just going to talk about what I want to talk about, and then I'm going to end it. I'm not going to do anything other than that, because that would be a disservice to you, my loyal fans. Again, just Laura. Although Regan listened to it last week, and he said that he feels that I should not have complained about him on the podcast. Also, some of the listeners said I should have complained about my previous podcast host on my new podcast. But they have wronged me by abandoning me. So, I don't care what you think. This is my podcast, and if you don't like it, you can leave. But please share it with a friend. Now, I'm going to move on to general bitching. So this is why I changed my name. I go to BYU, Idaho, which for anyone who's listening to this that doesn't go to BYU, Idaho is essentially a cult. There's these ridiculous rules like no beards. You have to live in student housing, which doesn't sound bad. Student housing is a pretty, it doesn't sound like it'd be a bad thing, except you have to live with 15 other dudes. And if you really do anything that isn't you basically have to live life as if you were a boy, like a 12-year-old boy. You have to live with a roommate. You can't have girls over past 9 o'clock. You can't cuss. You have to use Wi-Fi where they block porn and shit. It's so fucking weird. Like I said, it's basically a cult. So I'm just gonna do a quick rant about how much I hate BYU Idaho, and I want to leave so bad, but the problem is that your credits don't transfer out very well because, again, it's a cult, and no other school accepts the credits because of the science classes are deemed, very unscientific. And I've never taken a science class until this semester, but now I realize why. If I was a college, I wouldn't accept these credits either, because I'm just going to go over a quick list of things that we talked about in my first 2 science classes that I had. And I think these are generally stupid. It's actually just kind of like a multi-tier list of stupid about BYU. The next couple weeks of the podcast might be about how much BYU sucks. Okay, so 1, I'm not in kindergarten. I don't give a shit about my classmates. I don't want to play get-to-know-you games. I don't care about my professor's family. Please, if anybody ever fucking hears this, I don't give a shit. Nobody gives a shit about your family. Please don't tell us about your family. Frankly, I would rather not even know that you had a family. If your family died, I wouldn't care. No one cares. So just don't do it. Don't make us play get-to-know-you games. I don't know if that's standard at other colleges when you're... I guess I'm technically considered a sophomore, even though I'm 21 years old and I should be further in school. But do other colleges make you do get-to-know-you games? Just these ridiculous get-to-know-you things that have no bearing on the rest of your class? Because BYU does. I think it's because they really just want you to... They want everybody to marry each other, so I don't know if they're just trying to set up a connection. I don't know, but it's just ridiculous. Either way, no matter what they're trying to do, they shouldn't do it. My second point is that my professor is just dumb and stupid, and he's ridiculous, and I hate him. Now, the reason I hate him is because he sent out an email the day before class started that said, you need to read this first 2 chapters of the textbook and the syllabus and take this quiz before class tomorrow, because we will not cover the first 2 chapters and the syllabus in class. And then I got to class after reading the first 2 chapters and the syllabus and taking the test. And then all we did that first class was take the test, or review the first 2 chapters and read the syllabus. And at the end of the class, I raised my hand and said, Sir, Professor McStupid Dickface, whatever your name is, why did we go over the syllabus in the first 2 chapters when your email said, well, the syllabus said we will not be covering the first 2 chapters and the syllabus in class? And he said, oh, I actually didn't write the syllabus. I just copy and pasted it from the last teacher. So I don't know what that says. That really just rubbed me the wrong way, because he just plagiarized the professor before him work, which is like the biggest no-no for students is like plagiarism. So like, why can't he even just take the time to write his own syllabus? Or just completely disregard it in general and not tell us to take the test on the syllabus? It doesn't make any sense to me. Like, why have us do that? Is it just because he's an asshole and wants to be an asshole, or does somebody else have a reason? Please, somebody write in with a reason on why somebody would do such a stupid thing, because frankly, I can't think of one. I mean, genuinely, I can't. Now, let's move on to more, because some more happen. Oh my God, this is actually the worst one. He told us to come to him for dating advice. Like anybody would ever do that. And he said his reasoning was not because he went on a lot of dates in his life, but because he went on very little. So he must have figured out what worked, because how else would he have ever gotten better at it as if he didn't? He said, don't talk to people who got married really early, because they don't know, because it came easy to them. So they don't know what works. But talk to somebody who sucks, because they're going to have figured out what works for dating. Which, like, I guess in theory that, like, might make sense. Except it just means that you probably married somebody who is also weird. Because 2 weird people will put up with each other's weirdness so that they can be married. So, I don't know. This is a weird thing for my professor to say. I guess it's like he's trying to relate or be hip or cool or whatever. But, frankly, I would have rather him just not said it. But the dumbass did. Now, the next thing. He said, the way you dress affects not only the way other people see you, but the way you see yourself. And again, this is just such bullshit. Because you know what? I see myself naked every day, and it doesn't affect my self-esteem at all. I could wear nothing. Oftentimes, I wear the dumbest shit around my own apartment, and I don't feel bad at all. The only people who judge you for the way you dress is other people. And, like, sure, I'm not going to say that, like, the other people shouldn't judge you, because if you look like an idiot, that's all fine and dandy to be like, oh, well, he looks like an idiot. I don't see anything wrong with that. But, like, I don't want to be, because typically I'm very anti, or very like, oh, but rape culture is stupid. But like, for once I'm like, are you really blaming people for whatever? Like, it's just such a stupid fucking thing, man, to say. But what really got me, actually, I'm just going to skip to the part that bothered me, is BYU has a beard code. Like, you can't have any facial hair. And then he said what might be the dumbest thing I've ever heard. He said, if God wanted us to have a beard, we would allow it. So I had to raise my hand. And I said, do you really think God cares if we have facial hair? That seems like a very weird thing for God to care about. Because if God didn't want us to have facial hair, why would he give us the ability to grow it? And then he said some bullshit like, oh, you know, he's testing us. He wants us one way, but he allows us to be another way. And then I said, Jesus had a beard. If God hates facial hair so much, why would Jesus have a beard? And then he said, it was of the times to have a beard back then. It was acceptable. And then I said, that doesn't make any sense, because if God is literally all-powerful, he could have found a way for Jesus to shave. It doesn't make sense to say, oh, well, it was more normal to have a beard back then. It doesn't matter. People could shave back then. People have been shaving since the beginning of time. God doesn't care. If God cares about having a beard, I want to go to hell, if that's true. Because that's such a petty thing to care about. Now, the final thing that really got me is he spent the whole class talking about the truth of the gospel, and that the only thing that we know is true is what is in the Bible. Now, I actually consider myself religious in a way, in terms of I think God exists and I try to be a good person. But I just find this ridiculous because we know gravity exists, and I'm fairly certain nowhere in the Bible does it talk about gravity. I mean, maybe it does. I haven't read the whole Bible in a long time, but we know things exist. And I also feel pretty strongly that we shouldn't be teaching science and religion in the same class. I know there's a lot of scientists who believe in God, and there's a lot of scientists who don't, and they're both way smarter than me. But I feel like they're taught it separately. I feel like if you teach it in the same class, you're just skewing the results, and I don't like it. So we shouldn't do it, and I hate the school for doing it. And the final thing is, we were talking about God, and then someone said, I hate how people badmouth the church. It doesn't make any sense. Because if you were, they said they hate how people who badmouth the church tell other people about the church, and that people who are thinking about joining the church go and talk to them about the negative things they have to say to the church. Because that doesn't make any sense to them. Because if they were going to be a Buddhist, they wouldn't ask somebody who hates Buddhists about Buddhists, because then they'd only find out the negative things. That's so fucking stupid. You would talk to, if you wanted to find out about Buddhism, you'd hear about the bad things of Buddhism and the good things of Buddhism, and you'd put them together, and you would decide what you think is relevant to, being a Buddhist. I mean, you don't just decide what's good or bad. So that's it. Now I'm going to move on to my final segment this week, which is Bops for the Pod, which we introduced last week, but we didn't really do. Now, Bops for the Pod is when I make a playlist, an arbitrary playlist, just of random things, whatever I find interesting, whatever topic, and I make it. It's going to be 5 to 8 songs, and that is it. So this week we did songs about trains. Now, I had 7 songs about trains, and this was them. I'm going to read them to you, and then I'm going to tell you the winner of the Bops of the Week. So 1, Homeward Bound by Simon and Garfunkel. The Gambler by Kenny Rogers. Crazy Train by Ozzy Osbourne. Long Black Train by Josh Turner. Night Train by Guns N' Roses. Folsom Prison Blues by Johnny Cash. And Love Train by the OJs. Now, if I had to say which of these was my favorite, so the bop of the week is Night Train by Guns N' Roses, mostly because the lyrics are incredibly ridiculous and I can't get enough of the song. Let me just read you some of the lyrics, just really quick. Sorry, I typed in Night Train lyrics on Google, and it brought me to Jason Aldean's Night Train. What? Where's Guns N' Roses lyrics? Why are there so many songs called Night Train? Okay. Wake up, honey. Sorry, wake up late, honey. Put on your clothes. Take your credit card to the liquor store. That's 1 for you and 2 for me. By tonight, I'll be loaded like a freight train, flying like an airplane, feeling like a space brain. One more time tonight. It's just got the most ridiculous lyrics, and I love it. At one point, he talks about drinking gasoline. Yeah, here's the part. He says, well, I'm on the West Coast strutting, one bad mother, got a rattlesnake suitcase under my arm. Said I'm a mean machine because I've been drinking gasoline. And honey, you can make my motor hum. I've got 1 chance left. I got 9 lives cat. I got a dog-eat-dog sly smile. I got a Molotov cocktail with a match to go. I smoke my cigarette with style. I mean, if you don't think that's the best song out of this Train playlist, then you're just ridiculous. And that is the bop of the week. Now, if I'm being objective, the best song on this playlist, in terms of like the most impactful, is probably Homeward Bound. Because that song makes me want to cry. Because it's genuinely just a really good song. And if you haven't heard Homeward Bound by Simon and Garfunkel, you definitely should. It's great. The worst song on the playlist is Long Black Train, which ironically is the song that is most heavily train. It's the song with the most train in it. But it's my least favorite. It's too much train. It's like an allegory for sin, I think. I don't really know, because he talks about, like, once you get on the train, it's hard to get off the train. So I thought maybe it was alcoholism. Frankly, I don't know. But it's the worst. Love Train by the OJs is really good. I mean, I don't have much to say about that. In fact, Love Train inspired me for next week's Bop of the Week, which is songs sung by black people. Now, please, everybody, write in your sins for next week, because I'm going to end it here. At some point, I am going to do a movie review this week, but I'm going to try to do my movie reviews separate from the podcast, because I want them to be different. I think I can probably make a better movie review than a podcast, but I don't know. So please, send in emails, though, about your sins to mildmeatball@yahoo.com. This was Rod Rodriguez, going out. Love you, Laura.